Welcome to the Audacious OBM podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Woff, creator of OBM Academy and founder of Audacious Empires. Each week, my crew and I will explore all things building and scaling an exceptional OBM business. This podcast is here to share how you can charge premium prices, have clients lining up to work with you, and never have to work another weekend again. You can have a thriving OBM business working with the clients you want, when you want, and charging the price you want. It's time to banish mediocre and become the standout, sought after OBM you know you can be. Hey crew. Today, we are going to follow on from last week's episode, talking about client commitment and whether we are being stubborn, self-sabotaging, or just committed. And today we're extending that conversation, and we're extending it by saying you're fired. 10 reasons it might be time to say goodbye to a client. I want to give this episode a caveat at the start that might change the way you think about things when it's time to walk away from a client. And so that is, you're allowed to make decisions that are good for you. That's it. You're allowed to make decisions that are good for you. You don't always have to make decisions because they're good for other people. You count too. And so I want to challenge you with a mindset shift. And that is, instead of feeling like I must do this forever, I must work with this client until I close my business to honor my commitment, I want you to shift that to it's okay to outgrow my clients. Having said that, let's jump into the core of this topic, which is the reasons why you might be thinking about letting a client go. So I have 10 reasons for you. And I'm pretty sure most of them will resonate in some way, whether it's with a client you're working with now or one you've worked with previously, or just gives you some indicators of when it might be time to think about what's working for you and what isn't. Number one, low budget. If you're working with a client and you're charging them a low rate and they have a low budget, then you might consider firing them. Of course, you can give them the option to increase your rate. Maybe the rate that they're on now is a grandfathered rate. You started working with them so many years ago and it was a lower rate and you never increased it. And now you feel like you're stuck in that rate. Or maybe you know that that's the rate they can afford and you've broached the subject before and they can't increase it. It's okay for them to find somebody else who can do what they need done at that rate. And it's okay for you to help them find that person. It does not mean that you need to stay with them and honor that rate. So low budget is one reason you might consider moving away from a client. The second reason is availability. When you started working with clients, you had a certain amount of time and they had a certain amount of stuff they needed done. That's the reality. Now, let's say your client has grown. Their business is bigger now and they need more from you, but you don't have space. Or let's say that your business has grown, you have more clients, so you don't have as much available capacity to be able to commit to as much support as they need. And if there's that mismatch, there's going to be friction. So you either deal with the friction and work at a reduced capacity for them and find somebody else to support you, or you might consider walking away. I cannot be around 24/7, and that seems to be what you need now. And that's okay. You don't have to be available all the time. You don't even have to be available majority of the time. You just have to be clear with what your availability is and your capacity is. And perhaps your client hasn't even recognized that what they need has expanded. They've grown, and that's exciting. And maybe you need to help show them that. The third reason that you might consider walking away from a client is relationship deterioration. This one is yuck. You might have started working with a client and it was incredible. It was a match made in business heaven. But over time, it's deteriorated. And there might be valid reasons for this. You might understand why. Maybe there's life circumstances, maybe business circumstances. Things are very, very stressful. Or maybe there's mental health reasons. There's all different reasons that relationships can deteriorate and that people can start behaving in a different way than what you're used to. But that doesn't mean that you have to deal with it. It doesn't mean that you have to stick around and wait for it to go back to how amazing it used to be, especially if this is a prolonged, drawn-out process. It's actually quite unhealthy and can be quite toxic for you to stay. Or if you think, no, this person's just having a bad day today, you might not choose to walk away. But we're talking about longer-term deterioration here. That might be a reason why you decide it's best for both parties for you to walk away. You're both not enjoying this. If they're in a place where they're cranky or not really working well with you, then maybe they're better off working with someone else who they do get the best out of, who gets the best out of them. There are other options. The fourth reason is, as an OBM, you've decided that you want to specialize and you want to focus on clients in a specific niche or a different industry. When you started, you worked with all different kinds of clients, different types of industries, businesses, niches. But now you've worked out that you really, really love marketing support. So you only want to work with clients who give you marketing support work, where you can learn more about that, where you can expand the skills you've given, where you can add marketing strategy and strategic advice to the role. And the client that you're currently working with is still giving you things that you originally wanted to do, let's say course creation. It's all about courses. But now that's not what you want. And they don't have the ability to transition you into marketing support. And that's okay. It's okay to look at your client book and go, all right, 80% of my clients, I'm doing exactly the niche that I want to be doing. But this 20%, I'm not. And there's actually no room for me to move into it, which means that 20%, I'll never get back unless I release those clients and go and find more clients within my specialized niche. I'm forever going to have 20% less capacity to be doing the thing I really want to do. So that might be why you choose to walk away from a client. Number 5, OBM is bored. We're OBMs. We like to learn, we like to manage, we like to grow and expand. And maybe the work that you have with this client is cookie cutter. You've been doing it for so long, and this business doesn't have any big ambitious growth goals, or it doesn't innovate, or it doesn't have lots of changes coming in all the time. The team is exactly the same as it's always been, and your role is exactly the same as it's always been. And for someone, that sounds amazing. But maybe it doesn't for you. Maybe you want to continue to grow, and maybe you want to be in roles that help you do that. And if you're not in a role that helps you do that, and instead you're just doing things because they need to be done rather than it's what you're wanting and enjoying, maybe this role isn't for you, not anymore. And that's okay too. Number 6. This is a big one. Are you ready? The 6th reason you might be considering walking away from a client is because they are micromanaging you and are controlling. I hear this time and time again from OBMs. They cannot understand why some clients feel the need to micromanage every single task and breathe down their necks and check every piece of work, and sometimes even jump to conclusions before any action has been taken. You haven't even let me make a mistake yet, and you're assuming I'm going to. And there are all different reasons why people micromanage and become controlling and try to keep that control. And it has to do with them feeling safe. It has to do with their self-worth. It all has to do with them, and it doesn't have anything to do with you. And then you get to choose. You might not mind working with clients that are like that, but I've not met an OBM who has said to me, I love it when clients micromanage me. More times than not, I've met OBMs who have said, I cannot stand it and I don't get it. And how long do I have to put up with this? The answer is you don't. Unless you want to work with this client to try and help them change and see that they're safe with you, you don't have to put up with it, especially if you don't like it. And you do meet people who say, I'm a micromanager. That's how I am. So if you don't like it, don't work with me. Fabulous. If you don't like being micromanaged, don't pick those clients. And if you're stuck with a client that's like that now, that might be a reason you choose to say, see you later. Because there are plenty of clients who aren't like that. You just need to communicate that's what you're looking for. Number 7, client unavailability and lack of relationship commitment. Dun, dun, dun. All I mean by this is when your clients cannot set aside time to talk to you, to work things through with you, or to give you what you need to do your job. That's what we're talking about. The client is busy and always too busy. If you have a client that is too busy to even talk to you, or a client that cannot finish their sentences because they're too busy doing other things, and then it means that you never have what you need to do your job properly, and things are constantly feeling haphazard or half done, that's because your client needs to take a step back. That's because they need to rework the way they're doing things. And if you're in this pattern of feeling like your job isn't great, or you can't perform the way you want, or just being frustrated when all you're asking for is a conversation and you can't have it, then maybe it's time to walk away. And that's a good enough reason. Clearly, client, you have too much going on and you can't manage it. You actually can't manage the level of work involved in running this business and your own capacity. And it's making it impossible for me to help you. And all it's doing is making you frustrated because we're not getting anywhere, and me frustrated because we're not getting anywhere, and I can't even talk to you. It makes it really hard for me to plan anything, particularly other client work. Number 8, maybe the client's business has changed. When I started working with this client, I was doing certain things and it was great. I had my fingers in all pieces of the pie and it worked really well. Now my client's business has grown and expanded, and I don't have the skill to keep up anymore. Maybe as an OBM, what your client needs or wants or what the business demands, you can't provide anymore because it's changed. Or maybe what used to be okay as the level of service that you had simply doesn't meet the business needs. So let's say before you helped do all the marketing, but then the business blew up and it grew really, really quickly, and you're not a marketing strategist. Client now needs a marketing department or a head of marketing or someone who's not you. You don't have that skill. And it's not a poor reflection on you. You can never upskill in all different areas all the time. And sometimes it means we have to choose. So maybe that's why you might be looking at walking away. I can't actually do the things this business needs anymore. It's not my jam. It's not my skill set, even though it used to be. Number 9, life and family situation has changed. I don't know about you, but people rarely stay stagnant. Things change in life all the time. And it can be someone has moved countries and they're in a different time zone now. So communication is really difficult. Or maybe you're having a baby, or maybe they're having a baby, or adopting a child, or maybe they are moving house and it means that their mortgage is much bigger and their budget is much lower. There are all different reasons that lives change and family situations change. And the impact that that has on business can also be really hard to manage. And so maybe with those changes, the impact then is that this doesn't work for you anymore, or this doesn't work for them anymore. Maybe they're going to stop growing their business so they can adapt to these changes. And your role only works with a growth plan. So that's a valid reason to go, hey, things are a bit chaotic, or things are different or need to be different, and my role doesn't fit here anymore. And that might be a reason that you decide it's time to move on. And then the final one is you've decided to put your tightrope walking skills to the test and join the circus. Let me tell you, if you're going to be a tightrope walker in a circus that travels all the time everywhere, probably not a good reason to keep all your current clients. Or if you're deciding to completely change the direction of your business, how it looks and how it operates, you might be considering removing a whole stack of your clients that's not going to work for. Because what you've built with something else in mind. It worked in that scenario. It doesn't work in this one. You can't be on your laptop on a tightrope. It's not safe. And I'm pretty sure any insurance company will likely back me on that one. So there you have it. If you are wondering if the current clients that you have are still good matches for you, and if you're thinking about if it's okay to say goodbye, and if it's reasonable, if it's rational, or if you're just feeling really uncomfortable and you're trying to work out why, this list will help that thought process. It will give you things to think about and make your decisions a lot clearer. So I hope you found this useful. I would love to know if any of this resonated with you. Send me a DM at Leanne Waff. I'm not scary. I do not bite. And I'd love to talk to you. See you next week, guys. Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of The Audacious OBM. We hope this episode has helped you move forward in your journey to being a standout and sought after OBM. If you enjoyed the episode, take a second to rate and review. Each review helps us to help other OBMs just like you. If you're interested in learning more about OBM Academy and all that it offers, head over to audaciousempires.com to get all the juicy details. We'll be back next week.